Have you ever thought about what happened to the Death Eaters after Voldemort's downfall? What if some of them found ways to escape justice, while others faced fates worse than death? In today's video, you will find out the shocking truth about how the Dark Lord's most loyal followers were punished. Long before the Death Eaters terrorized the wizarding world, a young Tom Riddle gathered a group of like-minded Slytherins. They believed themselves to be his friends, though he never truly cared for them. According to Albus Dumbledore, they were either weak students seeking protection or cruel individuals looking for a leader to justify their actions. These early followers would later become the first Death Eaters. Under Voldemort, they became an unstoppable force, enforcing his will in both magical wars. But even after their master's demise, some managed to survive. Their fates were filled with fear, betrayal, and, ultimately, justice. Where did the Death Eaters come from? By 1970, Voldemort had officially formed the Death Eaters, starting with former Hogwarts students, mostly from Slytherin. They referred to him as the Dark Lord, and those he deemed worthy received the Dark Mark, a skull with a snake, a symbol of ultimate loyalty. Convinced of his immortality, they sought to overthrow the Ministry of Magic. Their numbers far exceeded those of the Order of the Phoenix. What did the Death Eaters do in the First Wizarding War? They spread terror. They attacked in secret, tortured, killed, and marked their victims' homes with the Dark Mark. Muggle and wizard alike lived in fear. Only Dumbledore's Order of the Phoenix and a desperate ministry stood in their way. But their efforts were not enough. What happened when the Dark Lord vanished? The war ended abruptly when Voldemort attacked baby Harry Potter and disappeared. With no master to guide them, the Death Eaters fell into chaos. Many were arrested without trial and sent straight to Azkaban. Bartemius Crouch Sr., head of the Department of Magical Law Enforcement, authorized the use of unforgivable curses against them. Some, like Sirius Black, were wrongly imprisoned, while others, like Lucius Malfoy, avoided punishment by claiming they were under the Imperious Curse. Who was punished after the First War? Most Death Eaters went into hiding, but the most devoted, like Bellatrix Lestrange and Barty Crouch Jr., continued searching for Voldemort. In a desperate attempt to find him, they tortured the Aurors Frank and Alice Longbottom into insanity. For this crime, they were captured and sentenced to Azkaban. Others, like Evan Rosier, fought to the death rather than be taken alive. How did the Death Eaters return? On June 24, 1995, Voldemort regained his body with the help of Peter Pettigrew. He summoned his followers, though some, like Igor Karkaroff, were too afraid to return. Even Severus Snape hesitated, returning only under Dumbledore's orders. The Ministry, led by Cornelius Fudge, refused to believe Voldemort was back. The Death Eaters used this to their advantage, working in the shadows to rebuild their power. They allied with Dementors and Giants, strengthening their ranks. In 1996, a mass prison break from Azkaban released many of their captured members. The Order of the Phoenix, however, also regrouped. In a battle at the Department of Mysteries, 11 of 12 Death Eaters were captured, but not before one of them, Bellatrix Lestrange, killed Sirius Black. The war had begun. How did the Death Eaters seize power? Though their exposure weakened them, the Death Eaters were relentless. They resumed their reign of terror, targeting key figures like Wandmaker Ollivander and Amelia Bones, head of Magical Law Enforcement. Their objectives were clear: kill Dumbledore, capture Harry Potter, and take over the Ministry. On August 1, 1997, they stormed the Ministry. Killing Minister Rufus Scrimgeour under their control, the Ministry granted them full amnesty. Voldemort now ruled the wizarding world from the shadows. How did the Death Eaters fall? The final battle took place at Hogwarts. As Harry and his friends destroyed the remaining Horcruxes, Voldemort became vulnerable. Harry, realizing he himself was a Horcrux, willingly faced Voldemort's killing curse, but he survived. Meanwhile, Neville Longbottom beheaded Voldemort's last Horcrux, the snake Nagini. The Dark Lord, weakened and alone, was finally defeated. What happened to the Death Eaters after Voldemort's death? With Voldemort gone, the dark marks on their arms faded into scars. Many fled, but justice found them. Some, like Barty Crouch Jr., were already beyond saving. He had lost his mind to a Dementor's kiss. Igor Karkaroff, who had betrayed his comrades, was hunted down and killed. Others, like Bellatrix Lestrange, fell in battle. Molly Weasley personally ended her reign of terror. Not all faced death. The Malfoys were spared for their betrayal of Voldemort in the final battle. Lucius gave up his former allies, while Draco distanced himself from his family's past. But most were not so lucky. Those captured were sentenced to life in Azkaban. Without Dementors, imprisonment was less of a nightmare, but still a fate few would wish upon themselves. Was this truly the end? In 2018, a magical disaster known as the Calamity shook the world. Strangely, dark figures in black robes and skull masks reappeared, attempting to reignite the fear of the past. Were they remnants of the Death Eaters, a new generation of dark wizards? Whatever their origins, they soon vanished, leaving only questions behind. And so the tale of the Death Eaters finally came to an end, or did it? The Dark Lord had fallen, but his shadow still loomed over the wizarding world. Many believed that Voldemort's defeat marked the end of his ideology, yet darkness does not simply disappear. It lingers, waiting for a new master. In the years that followed the Battle of Hogwarts, whispers of his legacy refused to fade. Some sought to reclaim his power, others to avenge him. And there were those who dared to dream of a new Dark Lord. One name stood out among the remnants of Voldemort's army: Theodore Nott. Unlike Draco Malfoy, who distanced himself from his family's past, Nott was raised in a household that still clung to the old ways. His father had been a loyal Death Eater, imprisoned in Azkaban after the war. But Theodore was different. Intelligent, reserved, and dangerously ambitious. He never sought fame, but he knew power when he saw it. While many former Death Eaters went into hiding, Nott remained in the shadows, studying. He had inherited not just his father's wealth, but something far more dangerous: knowledge. His family had collected ancient magical texts, some even older than Hogwarts itself. And within these forbidden pages he found something chilling, a spell that could summon echoes of the past, a way to tap into the very essence of Voldemort's magic. The past cannot be rewritten, Hermione Granger once said, but history has a way of repeating itself. Those words proved true when, years later, a secretive group emerged. They called themselves the Children of the Serpent. Their symbol was not the Dark Mark, but a silver serpent coiling around a wand. They did not seek to resurrect Voldemort. They sought to surpass him. Their influence spread quietly. Murmurs in Knockturn Alley, strange disappearances of Muggle-borns, cursed objects turning up in wizarding shops. When Aurors investigated, they found nothing but rumors. No leader, no face behind the movement. Just fear, creeping back into the wizarding world like a silent curse. And then one night, a message appeared, scrawled in black flames across the gates of Hogwarts. The blood of the unworthy will be spilled. Harry Potter, now head of the Auror office, knew the signs all too well. He had spent years dismantling the remnants of Voldemort's reign, but this was something different, more calculated, more patient. They're not trying to take power overnight, he told Ron and Hermione. They're waiting for the right moment. It was Draco Malfoy who, unwillingly, gave them a name. He had encountered them first. The Children of the Serpent had approached him, offering him a place among them. He refused. "They don't serve him," he warned Harry. "They think he was weak." Too consumed by his own hatred to see the bigger picture. They want to build something that lasts. The deeper the auras dug, the more disturbing the truth became. These were not desperate remnants of a lost cause. They were strategists, scholars, and heirs of ancient bloodlines. They had learned from Voldemort's mistakes. No blind faith in Horcruxes, no reckless assaults on the Ministry. Instead, they worked from within, recruiting, manipulating, and biding their time. Then, one day, Theodore Nott disappeared. His home was found abandoned, his belongings intact, but his most valuable possessions were gone. The books, the artifacts, the spells he had uncovered. There were no signs of a struggle, no traces of dark magic, just an eerie silence, as though he had simply walked into the night, leaving behind only one clue, a silver serpent carved into the wooden floor. Was he taken? Was he hiding? Or had he finally stepped into the role he had been preparing for? No one could say for sure. But the whispers continued, and in the darkness, somewhere beyond the reach of the Ministry, a new force was rising. Perhaps the